everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Hope your Tuesday is going well and you guys are enjoying the start of your week. This is going to be a deeper dive into the conjunction that we're going to be seeing later this week, where the Sun will be coming into conjunction with Mercury in its superior conjunction, creating the Sun Cazimi in the sign of Virgo. So basically, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. If you guys have already seen my Mercury retrograde video, I touched on it a little bit, but this video in particular is going to be more on my astro musings, where I'm diving deeper into the global, political, and cultural themes revolving around this particular transit. I'm going to be stringing together how the astrology of the cosmos paint a grander picture of why these events are unfolding and how to apply it to your daily life. If you want to know how this is going to be affecting you in particular, check out your September 2023 horoscopes on my channel. I do touch on this for each and every one of the 12 rising signs. Now, if you like my work and you want to see more of it, you can support me by number one, clicking the bell button below, making sure that you are alerted as to when we have new videos coming out on the channel. Please make sure that you're subscribed, but you can also consider joining my memberships. I have 3 different YouTube levels for memberships if you want to support me. This makes it possible for me to continue my research, create and produce these long format videos for all of you guys in YouTube land. You can also consider donating to my PayPal, or if you guys just want to like, comment, share, that's really helpful, especially if you want to share this with someone who may benefit from this information, and leave me a comment below, give me a thumbs up, and let me know what you think and how this transit is playing out for you in particular. So I want to preface the beginning of this video by talking a little bit about where I come from. So I live here in America. I live in the United States, in the state of Texas. And many of my references today are going to be in connection to American history, as well as my viewpoint as a US citizen. I'm personally experiencing Mercury retrograde through my natal 12th house, which quite frankly, I'm not a fan of. But it's been really interesting for me because this particular retrograde has been in a trine to my natal Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn. And it's also been in a trine to Uranus in my 8th house. So I've approached making this video by meditating on this week's events for what's coming up for me intuitively, researching and digging deep into history, both my own and the United States. All right, so on with the video. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the Cazimi that will be taking place actually tomorrow, but I think you guys are going to start feeling the effects of this as early as today. Now, in particular, the Cazimi aspect will be taking place on September 6, 2023 in the very early AM hours, so most of us are going to be asleep. So on the 6th of September, we're going to see the superior conjunction of Mercury while he's in his retrograde in conjunction with the Sun. This will be taking place at 13 degrees of Virgo. So if you happen to have any personal placements around 12, 13, 14 degrees of Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising, or any other planet, pay extra attention because you might be getting some sprinkles from Mercury, some intuitive messages. Now, I'd like to read to you guys for the degree theory. I like to reference Nicola's work quite often. I want to read to you guys what Nicola has to say about 13 degrees in general. Then we're going to dig a little bit deeper and we're going to read the Sabian symbols associated with this retrograde. Now, I love to use degree theory. I feel like it gives me so much more context to how this energy expresses itself, both in like transit, but also as well as the natal chart. Now, if you follow degree theory, you know that 1, 13, and 25 degrees of any of the signs has this energy of Aries. That, like I said, it gives you a little bit more context to how the energy will express itself. But in particular, 13 degrees is an Aries degree. So even though we're seeing the Cazimi taking place in Virgo, very analytical, mutable earth, grounded, very specific, there is this action kind of oriented vibe revolving around the Cazimi in general. That's why I'm calling this aspect a call to action. Now, in particular, when we look at the Aries degree, this is about constructing something, building something. It can be about contractors, masons, people who demolish things, people who build things. But it's also connected to production. So a place of production, workshops, producers, factories. Obviously, Aries has associations and connections to the military. So sometimes we see this come up for soldiers, uniforms, weapons, pistols, military barracks, and anything involving shooting. It would be also connected to angles, corners, engineers, engineering, machines, tools, things that are sharp. So like knives, needles, anything that can cut or be abrasive because of the connection to Mars with Aries. But more specifically, I think it's about being brave, active, hardworking, industrious, always active, enthusiastic, and somebody who functions really well on their own. It deals with the head because Aries rules the head or anything that's at the top. So it can be also dealing with the head, the nose, anything involving blood as well because of Mars's connection to blood. The color red, flames or anything that is connected to heat. Physical injuries, to lose blood, cut, fight, scrapes, sheep, obviously Aries. Germany, something that might be hot or spicy. Sportsmen's, muscular, muscles, things connected to men and masculinity, and to be the leader, to be the first, right? Because Aries wants to get there first. So for those of you guys who are new to this technique, essentially we want to look at this through the lens of Virgo and where this may actually be coming through Virgo type of topics and themes. So this could be first responders, right? First, and then Virgo being healthcare. This can be the first kind of movements in regards to military or things where military might be moving, or we might see like a change in direction in regards to actual narratives relating to war, which I do feel like might happen with this transit. The list goes on. But that's the connection of that 13 degrees. And I really feel like this is going to be bringing up themes where news is going to be coming very quickly, very fast, right? Aries. Now, in particular, you know, this is going to be felt, like I said, very strongly by those of you guys who have Virgo placements, but as well as Gemini and Virgo risings, because you guys are ruled by Mercury. So you may also want to pay attention to this conjunction that's going to be taking place. Personally, a lot of astrologers kind of vary on their perspective of the Cazimi. Some of us believe that it needs to be within 17 minutes, which is, you know, really kind of cutting it really thin here. A lot of us are going to be missing that because we're asleep. I wonder if it is possible that something wakes us in the night, or there's something that comes to us in the middle of the night, or comes to us in a dream, or we have some intuitive gut feeling about something. That is possible. Other astrologers work with it about a degree, and I kind of fall under that category. So you guys may start feeling the effects of this basically as early as today, but it could go all the way until the later portion of tomorrow, September the 6th. But it's a very small window of time when you're working with the particular Cazimi. Now, I want to read you guys the Sabian symbol, and then I'll talk a little bit about what the Cazimi might mean in astrology. And those of you guys who are new to my channel, I really like to reference the Sabian symbols. This is just the version that I use. If you're ever wondering what books I'm reading or what I'm referencing, you can always check my links below in the description. I have an Amazon book list where I make recommendations of things that I'm reading and various books and decks that I use on the channel. Essentially, the Sabian symbols are a guide. So it's a series of all 360 astrological degrees, which show us a little bit more in depth the connection clairvoyantly of what that particular degree means and how it might play out in life. Honestly, sometimes I see these in a very kind of spooky manner play out quite literally. And this is one of those cases. So yeah, so you guys are gonna probably be like, what, when you hear this? And I also should say that when we read the Sabian symbols, generally we round up. So if we're looking at something that's taking place, like let's say a new moon or a transit, we look at the full sign. So if it's 13 degrees and change, we read 14 as example. However, in these circumstances, when we are experiencing a retrograde, I always look at the whole sign of what it's retrograding back to, the actual degree. So I'm going to be reading for you guys 13 degrees because that's what Mercury is returning to. And this is 13 degrees of Virgo. A strong hand supplanting political hysteria. The keyword is power. The theme is taking the reins. The symbol speaks to the power and leadership, and as it's demonstrated by those rare individuals who who command the respect of their fellows by bringing about stability and order when chaos and confusion are winning the upper hand. The image of a strong hand supplementing political hysteria symbolizes the intervention at a point of crisis where things have reached a boiling point after a long period of administrative incompetency. The suggestion here is that weak or ineffective leadership eventually results in confusion, fear, and anarchy. At its highest, the symbol represents exceptional administrative skill, keen judgment, and outstanding leadership. The negative connections would be indecision, weakness, lack of personal responsibility by refusing to make decisions or take a stand on anything. The accent is on leadership and decisiveness. You may have to take the bull by the horns and rescue a situation that is getting out of hand. The opportunity is where your greatest advantage lies in doing something about it. It's time to get involved, set your objective, act with confidence, and be firm. The risk: just guard against hitting the panic button or faltering in the face of crisis. Don't appear weak. You may lose the confidence of those who depend on you. Stepping stones would be leadership, mastery, authority, command, control, administration, superiority, domination, management, supervision, regulation, strength, force, power, repression, or restriction. But what does it mean, right? What does it mean? I think in personal terms, this is a symbol that suggests that there is a need to take a leadership role or challenging take a leadership role in a challenging or chaotic situation, using one's wisdom, diplomacy, and influence to bring about a much more balanced and harmonious outcome. So essentially, it underscores the idea that even in the midst of turmoil, there can be opportunities for individuals with strong leadership abilities to make a positive impact and guide others toward a better path, right? So this is the potential, this is the opportunity. Essentially, as Mercury is retrograding in conjunction with the sun is highlighting that because it's bringing light to this particular topic. Now, I guess some of you guys might be wondering, what is a Cazimi? Essentially, this is a term that's used where it's a specific condition where the planet is very close to the sun. Generally, when a planet is within, let's say, a 10-degree orb, it's considered to be kind of like burning up. It's under the beams of the sun. So the general effects of that particular planet is usually diminished and it's not able to focus as it should. So in this situation, the conjunction is extremely tight, and this is right when Mercury is in the heart of the sun. So this is one of those rare circumstances where it's actually considered a really positive influence, where Mercury is helping kind of guide the direction of where we're taking action, the sun. So the Cazimi is pretty much seen as like a very potent and powerful placement. So if you have this in an individual natal chart, it can be somebody who is very insightful or somebody who has some kind of like keen sense of psychic or analytical awareness. I have this conjunction personally, and I feel like it's got its pros and its cons. It definitely helps me when it comes to my job, but it can also be overwhelming with the amount of information that can kind of come in. And so I see this a lot in charts of people who function almost like receivers, where they receive information or data or intuitive kind of insights, and it can be used a multitude of different ways. In particular, in the sign of Virgo, I think it's going to be about assessing data and being able to assess something that's actually going on in a much more accurate way when it comes to Virgo or Aries related matters. Now, here's a few key points to think about when we're looking at a Cazimi. Number one is like the sun's conjunction to Mercury is going to create an amplification of Mercury's energy. So when these two planets come together, you're going to see that Mercury is exceptionally strong because it's receiving a boost of solar energy. So it can manifest as a heightened expression of this planet's characteristics. So we can see that there's more facts, more data, more clarity, better understanding, better organization, important news and information that might be coming about. And it is considered to be a favorable influence because this is a positive aspect that Mercury is making with the sun. So it can signify that there are qualities that are associated that are coming up with the solar energy that we need to kind of be aware of. It can mean, because the sun is connected to power and authority, that we have chances for greater success, clarity, and positive outcomes relating to the house that Virgo falls in. So The Cazimi is also known as like the midway point through the retrograde. Once the Sun and Mercury conjunct, we're halfway through the Mercury retrograde. So those of you guys who are not aware of what this Mercury retrograde is supposed to be bringing, likely this can be that moment of like awareness of where you're taking action or where the bigger picture is kind of coming together in terms of what you're reorganizing or reworking. This is also going to bring, I think, greater visibility, okay, to some of these Virgo related topics and themes. So greater awareness might be happening, personal awareness, epiphanies come up when we have the Cazimi. But I say visibility because Mercury is in conjunction to the Sun, so there can be some sense of significant things that are being written about or published, or significant patterns or trends suddenly become more visible to all of us individuals. And yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting because I think this one is going to be felt on a psychological level more than anything, to be honest with you. But I think that it's going to definitely get people taking action and talking and sharing because of some of the aspects that we're going to see to Jupiter. It can indicate that there also can be challenges, okay? So even though there is a sense of overcoming something, I think the Sun is about kind of like our action plan. It can represent some kind of challenge because Mercury is still halfway through his point of kind of going to the underworld and coming back with some set of information. So for example, when we see this conjunction, it can indicate that there is like a personal shift in our viewpoint, right? And what we thought we knew, or a shift in our routines or our habits, and realizing that we have to wrap our mind around something that is potentially changing, right? Retrograde. And for everybody, this is going to play out differently. Like I said, it might be stronger if you're a Mercury ruled chart, or if you happen to have this happening on a personal, planet or degree. I think the one thing that I would kind of leave you guys with when you're dealing with Cazimis is know that this is a time-sensitive transit. Because this is going to be something that's going to be happening in the early hours tomorrow morning. By the time you're getting to the end of tomorrow day, Wednesday, you're kind of losing this opportunity. My recommendation is, because it's only going to last for a matter of hours, keep a notebook around, make some notes in your phone if you have to, keep a pen on you, maybe write some notes or something in your laptop if you have some kind of intuitive download about health or productivity, about a feeling that comes up for you very intensely, because I think this is how this is going to manifest for a lot of people. Now, eventually Mercury will come back to this degree. This is going to be after the Mercury retrograde. But just to show you guys, when Mercury returns to this 13 degrees, right around here on September 24th, it is also going to be met with a trine to Jupiter, okay? So this will be on the 25th. So some of these things may take a little bit longer to fully be revealed, to work themselves out, to become more visible. And to some extent, Cazimi moments are something that takes 6 to 8 weeks to fully transpire and fully unfold. So as we're seeing this conjunction taking place in early September, I will tell all of you guys that some of the events, both globally as well as your own personal life, will not start to become visible until the second half of December. Okay, so whether that's new routines and patterns and health things, or new jobs, or something that you're organizing or kind of getting prepared, it's going to take you several weeks for this to become fully visible. I love that it's in an earth sign, so it's going to help us with productivity and seeing these physical changes. But I also know that there is a downside to some of these, particular aspects and transits. Mercury is very much connected in this sign to health and healthcare and routines. It's also connected to jobs, and I think it's also going to be connected to travel. And so I think that some of the effects of this Cazimi may potentially affect us about 6 to 8 weeks down the road towards the end of this year. And I will touch on some of those topics in today's discussion. All right, so let's go back to the conjunction here. Now, I want to give you guys just a little bit of food for thought, how I'm starting to see some of this energy manifesting. And this is just these are things that I will source, and some of the things that kind of pique my interest the most. Probably the one that kind of was the most concerning for me personally, and not just, I don't even live here, but it's concerning for me because it's becoming normalized. Per the Washington Post and also along local TV networks in New York, New York City Police Department using drones to observe and monitor New Yorkers over Labor Day weekend. So how does this connect to the Sun-Mercury conjunction? Well, number one, awareness is key, right? Sun-Mercury. And so some of you guys might look at this and go, what does it matter? It's not a big deal. But I think it is a very big deal, and I think it makes perfect sense to me because Mercury represents gadgets, right? It also represents information or data. In this case, it was not just eyes in the sky, but also ears in the sky, because apparently these drones have audio and video connection to be able to survey and look over like apartment buildings and complexes to see what people are doing. So that's very Mercury, right? Anything that can potentially receive data and information. Now, apparently they were almost like they had some pre-recorded like response that was letting people know that they were in violation potentially of noise disturbances and telling people that they needed to like keep it down and comply with requests before sending an officer out. Now, why do I think this is happening? I don't think it's just the Cazimi that's building up. I think it's also the retrograde in trine to Jupiter. Not many people know Jupiter actually deals with airplanes, things that are in the sky, things that fly. It also has connections specifically in the sign of Taurus to physical property and resources and being able to look over what people may potentially have. So when we see Mercury and Jupiter in a trine, I think it's really talking about like, you know, where is this information going? I also think about Jupiter's connection to laws and whether or not this is legal. It's concerning to me because we saw a lot of this, especially during some of the stuff that went down in 2020 to 2023 in China, where there was lots of, drones and other things that were observing what citizens and individuals were doing. And it's concerning to me that this is becoming normalized, that we hear this kind of parroted on TV and then it's being put in major news articles that are coming out in like major print posts being like, yeah, they're going out, they're checking on things, they're making sure you're safe. And to me, that's really concerning because I feel like it's a violation of safety. And I'm wondering if other people feel the same way. Also, something I saw recently this last week online was out of New Zealand. The now Prime Minister Chris Hipkins has come out on video now blaming citizens for taking mandatory, in a recent video, telling citizens that no one forced their hand on mandates and that they made their own decisions. Interesting. So if you guys remember when this was going on, it was actually Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. I'm probably botching her name, but she has since left. She's no longer Prime Minister. And this is coming at a time, so these videos coming out on the internet, coming out at a time when censorship is at an all-time high. Okay, so it's becoming harder and harder to find said videos from the past several years of when the past Prime Minister was essentially saying that the social class was being divided into two groups, those who complied and those who didn't. And those who didn't chose not to and were almost punished in the form of not being able to get a job and also not being able to provide for their families or in society. Newsflash, the internet exists and people should be saving and including this in digital archives. Why? So we can reference that and go back and talk about what has happened in the past. And that is the purpose of a retrograde, is to go back and review things that we have said, thought about, talked about, and in particular, this is in regards to working situations, working conditions, workers' rights, as well as health regulations. It's literally per the astrology. Apparently GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations, there has been laws that have been passed in regards to being able to go and review digital archives. I'm not sure if that's on a personal level or if that's just in general, but these things do exist. So if you're seeing some of the stuff that's going on now that is concerning, I would recommend save copies of these things so they can be referenced and they're not potentially being scrubbed from Google and making it more challenging to be able to cite and reference some of these things that have been said and done in recent years. Per breaking news, and some of you guys are going to scoff at this, but whatever. Per breaking news report on InfoWars on potential impending mandates. You guys may or may not know in the United States, 10, if not more, states have basically passed laws and legislation saying they will not return to this, they will not require mandates, they will not close things down. But there is breaking news that's come out in this last week or so of potential, okay, this is all hearsay, slow implemented steps towards future mandates to begin with the return of masking on airlines as of September 15th, 2023. Now, why does that interest me? Well, this is going to be just after the Cazimi, about a week later, and I'm curious to see if the astrology prevails and if this does end up happening. Now, I think of Mercury retrograde as like a renegade, right? Like this could be people who are going and getting information, from back channels and information and trying to put out the word before it actually ends up happening. That's not unusual. There's a reason why we see data drops and all kinds of other hacking events that happen around retrogrades, and usually that's because the information is being put out there. And also we've got Mercury in a trine to Jupiter, which is basically alerting everybody globally, hey, this potential thing is going to be coming. So it has me thinking like, why are we going back to this? In early February of 2023, President Biden announced the declared emergency of COVID would end in the spring of 2023, and it did in fact end in April. So essentially, we've been out of this for some months. We've been told that it's no longer going on. So why are we potentially reviewing or considering returning? We'll see. These things have not happened yet. In financial news, there has been a major crypto hack, which is kind of scary. The largest crypto casino, stake.com, has reportedly been hacked for over $43 million. So Mercury retrograde. Mercury is systems, right? This is in like data and websites and applications. Now, in particular, this is connected because Venus, which is now direct, thank goddess, is the dispositor of the sun. So when the sun and Mercury come together, it's also connected to the fact that now Venus is direct and she's in a square to Jupiter. And Venus is about money. Leo is about casinos. Venus is in a square to Jupiter, which could bring about new laws and regulations in regards to that, or how that is a large sum of money that is going missing, 12 degrees missing. And eventually Venus will come into a square with Uranus. So it's like, what do you do in that situation? Kind of crazy. I think I said in a previous video that you were going to hear about some kind of money going missing. Here it is now that Venus is direct. Mexico places a piece of the Berlin Wall along the Mexican border with a plaque. So Tijuana's mayor took a jab at U.S. migrant policies by recently installing a 3-ton gray concrete slab of the Berlin Wall just feet from America's last stretch of the border wall. The plaque reads, "May this be a lesson to build a society that knocks down walls and builds bridges." I'll read that again. "May this be a lesson to build a society that knocks down walls and builds bridges." This is what the inscription reads on the Cold War relic attributed to Tijuana mayor. So those of you guys who are not aware, who are a little bit younger, the tearing of the Berlin Wall was symbolized the end of the Cold War and the division in Europe. It was a pivotal moment in history that led to the reunification of Germany and the eventual collapse of the Eastern Bloc countries in Europe, contributing to the end of Cold War. So this is a little bit personal for me. I was born literally on 11/11, right within days of the time of the Berlin Wall falling. Big news. My parents would, every time a kid was born, they would buy a newspaper of the news and everything that was going on in the world so we could look back and see what was happening, and this was like the big news for around the time that I was born. I think about being born with Saturn, Neptune in conjunction in Capricorn, and it quite literally is about the destruction and dissolving of borders, and learning to kind of clear those borders or those walls or those hurdles, karmically speaking, right? Saturn. So it was kind of in the skies the time that I was born. I find it interesting that this is coming up now as we're approaching what's going to be another Saturn-Neptune conjunction in just a few short years in the sign of Aries. And in fairness, in regards to this particular article, this is a piece that dates back to Trump's presidency. So while this happened recently in this last week, that the monument was placed with the plaque, it was originally delivered to the White House as a gift to President Trump, and it was refused. So it's now found its home here. I find it ironic that cartels are essentially involved more than ever in the southern border, and the building of the wall has ended, and we have borders letting in thousands of global immigrants regularly, right? That's essentially not being very well monitored. That's well documented. That's not my opinion. So it's kind of strange that this is going on now when it's quite the opposite. So I kind of attribute that to the fact that Mercury is kind of now redelivering something, especially something that might be in physical form, relating to borders, right? Opposition to Saturn, and immigration, opposition to Neptune, but something that's coming back up from the past. Now, why is this happening? Like, why is the past important? Well, I think we have to look at the past in order to move forward, right? That's so important, which is interesting because if we really wanted to read the Sabian symbol in a traditional fashion, we could read for 14 degrees, which would be rounding up, right? And this is what comes up. So both of these apply. So the past and the present very much do affect the future. Virgo 14, a family tree. The background as influence. The symbol speaks to cultural heritage, origins, and traditions as a driving force that leads individuals to cherish and build on, or reject and attempt to destroy their own personal roots. The image of a family tree emphasizes background and historical development in any present situation. On a practical level, the degree is involved in implication that the real issue in any current social crisis are not those being expressed on the surface. Rather, they are deeper ones involving tradition, old alliances, and threatened relationships. Implicit in the image is the idea that each man is unique in his own, and that those who are bound in their relationships by the common experiences, bloodlines, or allegiances will still at times find themselves at odds with each other as they work through their experiences together in the practical and everyday world. At its highest, this represents faithfulness, source, while yet fulfilling the promise of an individual and unique destiny. Watch out for misconceptions concerning biological or social heritage, feelings of alienation, and a sense of rootlessness. The accent is on heritage. Genealogy and questions about family roots can arise. Tracing the origins of history in some object or issue could be time-consuming. Your greatest advantage lies in getting to the bottom of whatever is bothering you. Ask questions and don't be misled by glib answers or sleight-of-the-hand cover-ups. Guard against trying to be something or someone you aren't. Be yourself and play your strong suit. Stepping stones would be heritage, ancestry, roots, origins, source, genes, tradition, background, culture, lineage, influence, reputation. So, I mean, it's just, I think there was a period of time where I questioned, like, how accurate could this be? And the fact that the Sabian symbols in themselves are nearly 100 years old, but time and time again, they prove to be so damn accurate. Essentially, I think for this particular connection, for 14 degrees of Virgo, it's suggesting the idea of ancestry and lineage and the importance of knowing your roots. It points to the concept of a family tree, where finely inscribed names and mysterious lines trace the connection between generations. It's about looking at the past, understanding where we come from. Now, for reference, I'm an American. I was born here. My family lineage is a combination of Eastern European, both Romanian and German on my father's side, and Scot-Irish on my mother's side. I personally know a lot about my lineage. I can trace my roots back generations on both sides of my family tree, but specifically on my father's side, several hundred years. Now, why is this important to me? Primarily because I take pride in knowing where my family comes from. I want to keep some traditions alive. I want to know what my ancestors had to endure in order to get to this point, because if it wasn't for that, and maybe survival of the fittest, I wouldn't be here today. And so it's got me thinking a lot about what's going on here in the United States. When I think about roots in a sense of country's roots and like what America was founded on, being known for a melting pot, right? Welcoming people here from Ellis Island and bringing people from all walks of life and all different cultural, religious, and, financial backgrounds. I mean, it's really becoming very disheartening because I keep questioning and asking, like, is the U.S. Constitution still protecting us today? Right? Do we still have that same kind of foundation? And would the founding fathers of the United States be proud of what's going on in this moment? Did they somehow foresee and know that there would be, certain moments in history where it would repeat itself? Were they implementing some of their own experiences into the Constitution and various other forms of, laws and other things that they passed to be able to protect us from this moment now? Because not many of us know our history very well, myself included, although I like history, but I did a little bit of research. I took it upon myself to pull some quotes from the Founding Fathers here in the United States, just as a reminder of their views and the importance when it comes to freedom from government tyranny. Now, Thomas Jefferson said, "The spirit of resistance to government is so valuable on certain occasions that I wish it to be always kept alive. It will always be exercised when wrong, but better so not than exercised at all." J. Madison said, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary." Benjamin Franklin said, "They who can give up essential liberty to obtain little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." That one rings true right now for a lot of people who are willingly waiving their rights to things for safety and security in situations that are more or less being created intentionally to make you think that we do not live in a safe world. Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." I think that's probably one of the better known ones. John Adams said, "Liberty must at all hazards be supported. We have a right to it, derived from our Maker, but if we had not, our fathers have earned and bought it for us at the expense of their ease, their estates, their pleasure, and their blood." George Washington announced, "Government is not reason, it's not eloquence, it's force. Like fire, it's dangerous servant and fearful master." Sam Adams said, "The liberties of our country, the freedom of our civil constitution are worth defending at all hazards, and it is our duty to defend them against all attacks." Alexander Hamilton said, "The sacred rights of mankind are not to be rummaged for among old parchments or musty records. They are written as with a sunbeam in the whole volume of human nature by the hand of divinity itself, and can never be erased or obscured by mortal power." And while this is not a founding father, he definitely played an influential role as a philosopher during the time of the Revolution. John Locke said, "Wherever law ends, tyranny begins." Now, obviously, these quotes reflect founding fathers' deep commitment to the principle of liberty, limited government, and individual rights, which were founded in the formation of the United States in its Constitution. They believed in the necessity of government that protects and respects the freedoms and the rights of citizens. But why is knowing your ancestry roots important, right? Why do we look into the past, and why is this coming up now during the time of this particular Cazimi? I think it's a global matter. I don't think it's a US matter. I know that there's more going on in the world just than what I can see. But I am seeing this personally in the United States. And I think that these messages come at a time where global immigration is a huge issue. In the last month, all over social media, Canada, Norway, Sweden, Germany, and now Israel have experienced migrant violence and full-on brawls in public, some turning violent with weapons and where police officers are being attacked. Both France and UK have experienced new record migration of illegal immigrants across the English Channel, over 5,000 people just in the month of August alone. And as of this last week, Israeli Prime Minister calls for mass deportation of migrants after a huge brawl breaks out in Tel Aviv. U.S. cities are being overwhelmed with the cost effects of these migrant masses coming in and flooding the city's streets. And over 1 million Americans in this last month have lost their job, while nearly 600,000 immigrants have gained positions in American jobs. I mean, that's just overwhelming. That's so overwhelming. And so I know that not everybody is going to have the same perspective as I, and I try to kind of like walk that line. But I think so many of these issues are coming up right now, primarily because we're seeing this Cazimi and this retrograde in opposition to Saturn and Neptune. So where Saturn creates boundaries and borders, Neptune dissolves. Saturn does deal with government, right? And both of these planets are retrograde currently. So there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that is affecting directly and in many ways overwhelming, right? Sun conjunct Mercury. The Virgo job. So whether it's job numbers, if it's healthcare, if it's, services that we're getting publicly, if it's resources, right? Because Virgo is here to kind of help and here to serve. You know, I'm looking at all of this and I'm asking myself, you know, what happens next? We're only building towards the Saturn-Neptune conjunction over the next couple of years. I hate to say it, but I think that this is going to continue, where we're seeing countries being flooded with migrants, and you know, some governments are acting in full support to host people, and it's really concerning to see the effects that it's having on local authorities as well as residents. So I found myself asking, like, why is this happening? Why is there a disruption of our roots, and why is there a push almost for an agenda towards a one world government, where we're forced to have open borders with complete dissolving of our culture, history, and our founding rights? We're being pushed to just accept the fact that we're all one and the same, and we're not. And I don't say that to be ignorant or nasty, but there needs to be a sense of remembering our roots and where we came from to be able to better move forward, even if that means that we have to say no to certain individuals. After all, the strength of our nation is derives from the integrity of the home, right? That's really what this is all about. And I keep thinking about that and how a lot of this might potentially be going on intentionally to be able to dissolve what is considered to be our home, which is meant to be safe and secure. But knowing your roots, right, Cancer, is so important. It gives you the opportunity to really reflect on both cultural and historical connections. So understanding your ancestry allows you to connect with your cultural and historical roots and your family. It provides insights into your heritage, traditions, and customs of your ancestors. And this connection can help you appreciate the rich tapestry of human history and culture and where you come from. But more importantly, I think it's about identity, right, and belonging. Knowing your ancestry can contribute to your sense of identity and belonging. It can answer questions about your heritage, where you come from, your cultural influences that have shaped your family, and this knowledge can foster a stronger sense of self and belonging. A lot of people want to know primarily for health and genetic reasons, because obviously some medical conditions and genetic predispositions can be hereditary, and that definitely is the case here with Virgo. Knowing your ancestry can provide, this information so you can be informed about potential risks or conditions that might be more common within your particular groups. And this knowledge can be valuable for making informed healthcare decisions. Cultural awareness, obviously, understanding your ancestry can enhance your cultural awareness and sensitivity, make you more open-minded and empathic towards people from different backgrounds, and help you appreciate diversity in the world. It's not meant to create division. Preserving your family history and knowing where you come from, so you're able to pass down your family's history and stories to future generations, allowing you to maintain a connection to your roots and share this heritage with your children and grandchildren. Genealogy research, obviously, is big for a lot of people. It involves exploring historical records, conducting interviews, piecing together pieces of your family's history. But I really think it's about personal growth. Learning about your ancestors' experiences, challenges, and achievements can provide valuable lessons for personal growth. It can inspire you to overcome obstacles, set goals, and strive for success. Knowing that your ancestors have faced similar challenges, but also what they fought to make possible for you today. What they had to go through to make it possible for you to be able to have some of the rights and the freedoms which you have, regardless of where you live. A sense of perspective, obviously, understanding ancestry can bring a broader perspective on human history and the world. It can make you realize that you're a part of a much larger story, and it can inspire a sense of awe and curiosity about the past. But it's also meant to build bridges, right? In a globalized world, knowing your ancestry can also be a way to build bridges with people from different backgrounds and create the opportunities for cultural exchange, understanding, and collaboration. Now, in particular, the themes that you guys are going to be seeing are really highly kind of connected to the aspects, and the aspects are everything. So we already kind of talked about how Sun and Mercury is highlighting some of these Virgo themes. Mercury is in its ruling sign, so it's got an extra kind of bit of oomph to this conjunction, and it's forming this trine to Jupiter. And I think that, we see this trine happen several times throughout the retrograde. I read a really interesting quote by Amelia Earhart that really makes me think about the Mercury-Jupiter trine. She said, "A single act of kindness throws out roots in all directions, and the roots spring up and they make new trees," right? So that connection of Mercury at that degree, talking about looking at roots and where we come from. Mercury's trine to Jupiter in Taurus, which quite literally is growth, it's development, it is trees, it's everything that grows and has life. And so where potentially our willingness to rework the way that we look at our past and where we come from and where we're moving forward, Jupiter, Uranus, gives us the opportunity to kind of like build bridges, not form these walls, not these limitations that we're having with other people. I think that happiness and joy and generosity, very Jupiter and Taurus, very generous, right? But kindness, the small acts of kindness, throws roots out in all directions. Now we've got Venus direct. And like I said, Venus is the dispositor of the sun, because Venus is in Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. And it's now at 12 degrees. And it's going to be there for a couple more days as Venus is now waking up. But she's still in an extended square to Jupiter, okay, which is also very much a part of this Cazimi. And when I think about this, I think that this building square that we're going to continue to keep feeling for a couple more days is going to bring this effect of this, like, okay, what's going on with finances? What's going on with money? Obviously, Venus in Leo is about what the heart wants. It's about taking risks, but it also has strong connections, like we said, with the stock market or casinos or things that might be, you know, kind of like, yeah, not guaranteed. And the square to Jupiter creates these enhanced larger than life experiences with love, with money. And yeah, I think that the sun trine Jupiter is also tying this in, that there's a lot of potential risk on the table when it comes to changes that are going to be happening in our world, our work life, our daily routines, and the potential financial implications that may come with this. But when I dig deeper, I wonder, how is this about money? Where is this about how some of these potential accidents, health problems, crisis, right? These are all things that come with Virgo. Sixth house is seen as the house of accidents and health issues, unfortunately, problems, delays, and how that's actually making some people money, right? I'll come back to that in a second. Let's talk about the positive, because we all need some positive here. Mercury trine Jupiter, intellectual expansion, quite literally, right? Mercury in its home sign, Jupiter in Taurus. Practical thinking is what I think about a lot also, and being able to do this on a global level. Optimism and positivity definitely comes with that trine. Learning and education, because Jupiter is all about education and Mercury is about information. You know, turning a page, especially when it comes to positive shifts with business and finance, because both of these signs deal with mental stability. Where Mercury and Virgo trine Jupiter and Taurus, there may be opportunities for financial growth through practical and well thought out investments or business endeavors. And obviously attention to detail. That can really pay off if you're really good at seeing or spotting these particular trends or some of these shifts in the market, or kind of picking up on some of the news that's going to be coming out while we're seeing this particular Cazimi taking place. You can be financially and physically prepared for what's coming down the pike about 6 to 8 weeks from now, okay? So I found myself asking throughout this particular, like preparation for this video, I kind of took like a different approach because I've been really anticipating Mercury coming into a trine with Jupiter for me as being a time where I was going to have the opportunity to really create some great content, really take time to sit and reflect on things. And I've been taking the approach of like meditating before I do any research or anything. And I went into my meditation asking myself these questions. Why are we supposed to fear asking questions right now? Especially logical ones. Why is that something that's going on in this current climate? Can we trust the media, or leaders for that matter, who are constantly going back on their word? Especially because the sun rules leaders and Mercury is retrograde. And we're seeing a definite shift in the narrative, or going back on promises, or returning back to things that don't really seem like leader mentality, if you ask me. What have we learned from the last 3 years? Why are leaders not being held accountable for the sudden return to old narratives? What can I do about it? Are emergency climate matters the new way of the U.S. being able to claim emergency funding and being able to push through requests from Congress for funds, being able to pass emergency legislation, and just shoving things through in the name of climate issues. How is this potentially dangerous, opening the door to enforce future lockdowns, be that for health or environmental reasons? How is big business potentially profiting off of these events with land grabs or newly sprung donation or nonprofit type of business opportunities? Look at what's going on with Oprah and The Rock. They're just getting laid out on the media talking about how they invested what was, I think, $5 million to start something up, when you dig a little bit deeper and you start to realize that you've got millionaires and billionaires asking for donations from common people for a crisis that took place in Hawaii, where our government is really failing to step up and do anything. Like, that whole situation, in my mind, is suspicious, and I'll just leave it at that. But where are potentially people making money off of these particular crises, right? Whether this is looking at what happened with FEMA in Hawaii, if you guys have been following the last couple of days, what's been going on at Burning Man, and the fact that, you know, they got rained out and there was flooding that has happened. Apparently they shut down entrance or exit to Burning Man, telling people to shelter in place. These numerous fires that are popping up all over the place, right? Jupiter and Taurus, okay? Money and laws connected to environment. Trine, Mercury retrograde, in opposition to Neptune. Rolling back statements and giving cloudy or unclear information in regards to these situations. How are our tax dollars being spent on such emergency measures? Why are we feeding the machine? Be that politically or through taxes, banking, and business with big corporations. Why are borders being flooded with migrants? Is it intentional? Is there an intentional move to forget the past as we are overwhelmed with crisis, put in positions of feeling vulnerable, so we intentionally accept any orders or any support moving forward at any cost? That's just me. These are things I'm asking because I feel like we're kind of at a dangerous turning point right now where a lot of people are afraid to ask questions. And this conjunction is a call to action in your own life where you have to ask yourself the hard questions. You have to be willing to take action and at least stand up and ask these questions. So when I sat and meditated on it for a little bit, this is what I got. Which is a constant reminder that I get because I think so many people spend so much time out of their body. We don't realize that pain, weight, fear, these things all, keep us out of our body. It's hard to be in our body right now with all of these weird frequencies and all of this fear stuff that's coming up. So really, I think Mercury and its connection to the lungs is about breathing. Okay, so breath is so important right now. Why is breath so important? Because it's going to calm your body down. Don't get overwhelmed with all the information and the things that are coming out in the world right now. Don't focus on that. Take a step back, practice the box method, right? Take 3 seconds to breathe in, hold it for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds, right? When we're breathing and we're grounded and we're connected to our body and our mind, Virgo, we're going to make more sound decisions. We're not going to act erratically. We're going to be able to practice critical thinking. And why do we need critical thinking right now? Because someone has to be the voice of reason. That's the most important thing that we need to be aware of right now. Somebody has to be the voice of reason. And even if that's you leading a team or talking to your neighbors or your family, talking to your local government, talking to your kids, right? We need critical thinking. We need people to be stepping up and being leaders. That's what 13 degrees is all about. So I guess the question is, what can you do? Well, as you start to see this conjunction building, listen to that little voice inside of you that says, do something, say something, take some kind of action. And this is also about integrity. Because of this conjunction and the trine to Jupiter and Jupiter's focus on integrity, now Jupiter is retrograde. So we're reevaluating, what do I possess? What do I believe in? What am I willing to invest in? What are the laws? What is the higher moral ground? What is the best thing to do? Well, integrity means doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. And I think that could not be more literal than it is right now, because Mercury is in opposition to Saturn in Pisces, okay? Which means no one is watching. You have an opportunity to take action while people are not watching. Do it anyway. Take time in the next few days to sit and meditate if you can, even if it's just for a few moments. sit down and ask yourself, what can I do right now that will make a difference? Even if it's one little thing that you do in your daily routine. I want you to think about it, meditate on it, hold space for an answer. And when it comes to you, write it down. Put it on a sticky note. Put it next to your monitor that you work at work. Put it in the bathroom, on the bathroom mirror. Put it in your visor in your car. Put it on your phone as an alert or a prompt. But write it down somewhere that you're going to see it every day. And ideally, this is something that you see first thing in the morning. And what you'll find is that if you are working on that thing for the next 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to see the seeds of this particular Cazimi start to unfold. And I think it's going to have a domino effect that's going to positively affect other people. That's going to allow all of us to move forward with a little bit more strength and courage and be able to kind of take charge in our own life. Hopefully this video inspires you to do that. Let me know. Leave me your comments below. I'd love to hear from you how the effects of the Cazimi are playing out. You can come back to this video and let me know what little epiphanies or kind of downloads or insightful information you get from Mercury. I'll be back here on Thursday doing another video for you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's all for me, and I will see you guys here in just a couple days. Take care.